So I'm really sorry to be delivering more bad news. I really am. Every time this administration does something to distract the world, like the latest being this Tylenol joke, something else is happening they don't want us to know. And the research from Money Talk News, the economists from Money Talk News have just released their very dire economic data. So Doge laid off 287,000 people. Okay. American companies have already in 2025 announced 744,308 job layoffs. Okay. Just in the first half of 2025, these are the highest layoffs since the pandemic. Major sectors hit include retail, technology, media, and nonprofits. Overall, there's been a 220% jump in layoffs compared to this time last year. While the unemployment rate is at 4.2%, considered low, the number underneath that is disturbing. Because 34%, a record-breaking 34% of those employed today are considered functionally unemployed, meaning they are working for poverty wages and SHIP benefits. Highest number in the history of the United States. So that unemployment number that the administration is boasting about, low employment numbers, don't let them gaslight you. And more bad news. They are expecting 480,000 more Americans to lose their jobs by the end of this year. And folks, there's only like 3.5 more months left. Tariffs are estimated to cost the average family, now that they're all really kicking in, a net income loss of $2,300 by the end of this year, as tariffs hit their highest since 1935. Additionally, things like leather goods and shoes and handbags are expected to see a rise in price of 37% because of the tariffs, clothing 35%, vehicles 12%, or roughly $5,000 per new car, and metal goods are expected to increase by 36%. Low-income families will be bearing the brunt of all of this, as their disposable income is virtually going to disappear under the Trump administration's Trump session. And MAGA, that's a lot of you folks. Now, I want you guys to keep all of that in the context. All these layoffs, families who have family members that are not bringing in an income and can't find a job because the new job creation under the Trump administration is some of the lowest ever. In addition, they're going to be hit with these higher costs. In addition, once the big, beautiful bill portion kicks in where you have to be employed to get Medicaid, but people can't find jobs to get that Medicaid coverage. So we have that to look forward to in the next upcoming months. This is fucking horrible. You know, I guess the only people that aren't going to be affected by this are the ones that are going to be raptured tomorrow. Yeah, the Trump supporters that are going to be raptured tomorrow. They're the only ones skating free out of all of this. Anyway.
Breaking news, folks! Huge Epstein update. Last night, Democrat Adelita Grijalva won her special election in Arizona's 7th congressional district. And with that victory, becoming the first Latina in Arizona to become a member of Congress, as well as became the 218th and final vote needed to force a vote on the release of the unredacted Epstein files. That's it! That's the magic number. We reached it. The threshold has been hit. The dam is about to break. This is incredible news. But, as usual, Republicans have a trick or two up their sleeves. You've probably heard amongst the chaos of everything else going on, right, that there is another government shutdown looming. Happens a few times a year, but this one is different. Because word on the street is ahead of the shutdown deadline, which is Wednesday, October 1st, meaning Congress was supposed to meet Monday the 29th and Tuesday the 30th, but Mike Johnson is willing to just let the whole thing shut down early, yet again, to avoid releasing the files yet again. Because as a reminder, this is exactly what happened earlier in the summer when Mike Johnson basically just told everyone to just go home early to avoid a official vote on releasing these files. Because now, y'all, with Grijalva's win, they're out of excuses. The pressure from the public has mounted and the votes needed from the politicians are there, and they're scared to death. Now, in addition to all of that, here's another catch. I'm seeing some people in support of letting the government shut down because that will essentially show everyone, oh, look, the Republicans literally let the government shut down so they didn't have to vote on this. But then I'm also seeing people say that they don't want the government to shut down because then ultimately the files won't be released as planned. So take that how you will. I'm not really sure which side I stand on. I think there's pros and cons to both outcomes. And at the end of the day, I want the choice that is gonna get these files released. Also, this all comes on the heels of our so-called party leaders, Hakeem Apex Shakur Jeffries and Chuck strongly worded letter Schumer, saying they wanted to have a sit down with Trump to discuss this. To which he did agree at first, and then, of course, backed out once he saw that the votes were there and that having this meeting was essentially pointless. Because what I and so many creators have been saying all along is about to happen. It's all gonna come out, and there's not really any stopping it. Now, with that said, here are the two things that are gonna keep me up at night for the next few days. One, that some of the Republicans who signed the discharge petition won't follow through with the actual vote. And two, perhaps more sinister, that something will happen to slam that door shut in our faces right as we're about to go through. Wink, wink. So to recap, government about to shut down, but we do have the opportunity to vote on releasing the Epstein files before that. But Republicans don't want that, so they're shutting the government down early. Another day in the US! What do you guys think? Comment below. And while I have you, be sure to like, repost, share this with someone because, yo, we have the numbers! The only thing standing in our way now, in all of America's way, is the GOP, the Guardians of Pedophiles Party. And be sure to follow me for more updates like this.
Are you a white non-MAGA person? Okay, listen, this is my assumption and my interpretation. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But if I'm right, let me know in the comments too. But I imagine that on a day-to-day basis, you have a lot of interactions with people who think that you're with them. And you're either like, no, or you might be unable to express that because it's your place of business. You work with these people. What about your parents? Ooh, like, God forbid your husband. Like, I don't know if or your spouses, you know what I'm saying? But I imagine that you're having these conversations or you're uncomfortable in these situations. And I'm like, well, welcome to the dark side, because I've been uncomfortable for as long as I can remember from just simply being Black. But I also know that as a Black woman, I don't have to really worry about the spaces that I'm in because I'm safe in those spaces. And I'm not forced into situations and interactions with people who have voted against my rights and they don't support me. You actually probably hate me. And if you're gay, I'm you know what I'm saying? Welcome. But what I'm saying is that we have to get to a point where these conversations start to make them feel uncomfortable. Okay? So follow me on a journey. If you want to regurgitate some of the information I say, I'm your girl.
So my dad, a Republican state senator in New Mexico, just got back from his trip to Israel, which was not like a personal vacation, by the way. It was him and a bunch of his other Republican cronies who got invited to Israel for what I can only assume was just like a propaganda trip. So yeah, it looks like my dad and a bunch of other just like loser politicians from New Mexico went to meet with Netanyahu, and I don't know what they could possibly discuss. I mean, again, it's my dad and a bunch of other, like, state senators and state reps, which, like, how does meeting with Netanyahu help the local people of New Mexico? But yeah, I genuinely believe that Israel is, like, paying my dad now to, like, peddle propaganda, because he also posted this, like, super long tweet that's, like, basically dissertation length, that I'm not even gonna, I couldn't even take a screenshot of it and get even half of it. Like, that would take like 4 screenshots to get the entire thing. So if you want to check it out, I guess go to his Twitter profile. But he was basically just peddling all of this Israeli propaganda, saying that the genocide is a lie and that like civilians aren't being killed and the IDF is doing everything they can to like minimize casualties. And I'm like, how much are they paying my dad? You know, like, how much is his soul? Because it seems like he has sold his soul to the devil and is now just peddling like lies and propaganda, which, I mean, look, he's a Republican politician. That's kind of like par for the course. But it's just a little odd to me that somebody who is a state senator, again, he's not even a U.S. senator, he's a state senator, got personally invited to Israel and met with Netanyahu. Like, what is going on here? I'm genuinely so confused, and I don't know. I think there's some like nefarious stuff happening, and I just genuinely hope that this will be the end of my dad's political career, because he is clearly not somebody who has like his constituents' best interests in mind.
All right, it's time for MAGA versus Jesus, round 7. MAGA says fake news, but the Bible says the Lord detests lying lips, but delights in people who are trustworthy. It's funny how everything that is against Donald Trump's agenda is automatically fake news, regardless of if it's true or not. But God delights in those who tell the truth, not in those who lie to line their own pocketbooks. MAGA says, stand back and stand by. But the Bible says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Standing back and waiting for violence to happen or instigating violence are not compatible with biblical teachings. The Bible tells us that we are to create a more peaceful society by actively working for peace. MAGA says opponents are enemies of the people. But Jesus says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Jesus called us for a radical reformation of our hearts in which we strove to love everyone, even our enemies, not to demonize them. MAGA says, be real, Americans. But Paul says, there is no longer Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Following Jesus is about looking for our commonalities. You see, the teachings of Jesus are simply incompatible with Donald Trump and his agenda.
The MAGA movement is a false god and is a false idol. And to let a picture prove my point, let's look at a picture that I would like to show you. The picture on the left is the ancient Israelites worshiping the golden calf. The picture on the right is the golden trump. This is an AI-generated video, image still, that was released by the White House about Trump's Gaza. That is, Trump's plan to get rid of Palestinians and to make Gaza into a resort. The MAGA movement is a false idol. Human beings want to do this, you see. We are given the path of love and liberation. We are given the path of progress. And all too often, the path that we choose is the path of regression.
They are going through an extinction burst right now. MAGA, conservatives, Charlie Kirk devotees, evangelical Christians that are prepping for the rapture, they are going through a textbook extinction burst. And for those who may not be totally aware, totally fine, I got you. Extinction burst is basically exactly how it sounds. When a group, a species, however you want to define it, knows that its end is coming, that its extinction is imminent, their self-preservation kicks in, right? They begin acting in ways that may be irrational, erratic, or seem extreme to try to keep themselves alive. That can apply in both the literal sense of staying alive or the metaphorical sense of like an ideology dying out. Like I have been saying, MAGA conservatism, this white Christian nationalism, evangelical Christianity, it's dying out. It lost its momentum a long time ago, and it has been on a downward plunge for a few months now. And while yes, that's good, it doesn't mean we can just sit back and do nothing. Because as we can see, that they're getting crazier. They're acting out more. They're getting more violent. They are goddamn preparing for a rapture because they think that's the only way they can be saved. That's how fucked they know they are. But nevertheless, as they say, there's like a saying for everything. There's nothing more dangerous than a cornered animal. They're unpredictable. They'll do anything to get themselves out of the situation. So to sum this up, I guess, yes, have your popcorn, enjoy their freak out and ultimate meltdown, but also, like, be vigilant, like, stay safe, you know? There's no telling what they'll do. Especially because we know at the source of all this, at the very top, right? This is all a reaction to them now accepting the inevitability that the Epstein files are going to come out. He knows that's gonna be the thing that just causes it all to blow up. So he is doing any and everything possible to not have that happen. And with Adelita Grijalva's special race happening in Arizona tomorrow, and the fact that she said that as soon as she wins, she will be the 218th and final signature on the discharge petition to force a release of the Epstein files. And while I certainly don't want to like speak anything into existence, I also don't want to just sidestep the fact that it feels like something's gonna happen, right? Like, we all feel the tension in the air that this is all culminating into something. I sincerely hope and pray that this religious psychosis and breakdown of white Christian nationalism across this country is going to take the path of people waking up and realizing it's all a crock of shit, rather than take the route of like going a step further, you know, doing whatever it takes. I don't know. Comment what you think, and be sure to follow me for more like this.
Hey Mega, while we have your attention, it's not just the Jeffrey files. Do you remember that the Orange Clown used to own the Miss Teen USA and Miss USA beauty pageants? Yeah? Well, 5 of the former Miss Teen USA contestants came forward and said he used to barge into the dressing rooms constantly while everybody was in various stages of undress, and the youngest to come forward was 15 at the time. And if you don't believe me, here's a quote that the Orange Clown said on Howard Stern. This is an actual quote. You can go look up the tape if you want. This is what he said in 2005. "I'll go backstage before a show and everyone's getting dressed and everything else, and you know, no men are anywhere, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, they're standing there with no clothes. And so I sort of get away with things like that. We tried to tell you."
So they're going to label Antifa a terrorist organization, and I need people to pay attention to this because Antifa is not a group. It's not an organization. There is no building where Antifa meets. There is no group of people who get together and call themselves Antifa. Antifa stands for anti-fascist. So our government is saying that if you're anti-fascist, then you're a terrorist. Think about that for a second. If you're against fascism, they're saying you're a terrorist. And yet the right's still trying to say that they're not fascists. Well, if you're not fascist, then why is Trump signing an executive order to make being against fascism a terrorist act? Because like I said, Antifa is not a group. It is not an organization. There is not a group of people who meet anywhere and call themselves Antifa. Antifa just stands for anti-fascist. So if being anti-fascist makes you a terrorist against the U.S. government, that means the U.S. government is fascist.
So here's a quick 2 fuck around and find out stories that I just heard of. And they involve people wearing MAGA gear or displaying MAGA Trump gear on their vehicles. So there's certain restaurants that when they get word that some MAGA wearing people are in their restaurant, the people working back in the kitchen, they get a little thing on the ticket that says, Table 18, bunch of MAGA clowns wearing MAGA gear. And they're spitting in their food. Oof. And then you know those places where you get a quick oil change, get your oil changed in a jiffy? Yeah. So sometimes these people pull in there with their vehicles with their Trump flag or their Trump 2028 sticker. And the guys working underneath the car while you're getting your oil changed, they're doing a number on your vehicle. So again, I am totally opposed to this kind of stuff, but fuck around and find out, I guess.
What's up, beautiful and amazing souls? So welcome back to today's video. It's Irene's Take, where we do commentaries or reaction videos about US politics, Africa's politics, what our leaders are saying, and also what Americans are saying about so many things that is happening in America. So today we're gonna go through a lot of videos, and one of them is this high tariff. Okay, the effects, the impact of high tariff in the economy of America and in American people. So my good people, you already watched the video, understood everything, and now let's talk about it, because it seems, Africa is going to be the next big thing. Trust you me, with the way America is going, they're the first world countries, but they're the most developed in the world. But the way things are going, oh man, it seems like the economy is actually shrinking. So I want us to talk about some of the things that you don't really hear or watch in our TVs or even social media platforms. Like, these are the things that are not going to be talked in the news, and it's about America. So unemployment rate in America has really gone high. And most of us, we know that when it comes to employment rate, America is number one, but at the moment, so many companies are laying off. And in fact, they're like, guys, you need to take care. Some of these companies, when it approaches holiday, they are going to lay you off. So you need to be ready psychologically. We don't want you to get into depression. Also, tourism is down. And in America, tourism is down. America, the dreamland. When you talk to many people in this world, the only thing that, okay, if you ask them, like, which country do you want to go to? They'll probably, like, the chances of them saying America is like 98%. And then the UK comes in, and Canada, and the rest of the world takes like 0.5%. Anyway, I think that's what the way it's actually put in our mind. So businesses in America, be it small, be it medium, they're actually going down, closing down, and that is because of the high tariff. Remember, sometime back, the president of America introduced tariffs for each and every country, and these tariffs were actually going up, not even down. It was going up. And one of the countries that was really imposed a high tax was China. Only to know later on that China, most Americans do export their goods to China. But then the high taxes have been introduced, and these taxes, they were going to really hurt the American exporters, not even the Chinese or whoever. But at the end of the day, it really disadvantaged them to the point of, China having to look for other sources of their raw materials, because when taxes are high, it means that they're going to sell to them at a higher price, or on the other hand, they're going to import at higher price or rates, and now they have to look for contracts from other nations, countries, so that they can be sourcing their raw materials from there. And that means it's an American business person that is losing big time. So I could see some Americans saying that, hey, Democrats, you people, you are in the opposition and we expect you to fight back. Why are you not fighting back? And I can tell you, Democrats are silent, not because like they don't know what is happening. They know they voted the right way. They knew what they were voting for. And so there is no need for them coming out to cry left, right, center, because most people that are crying now are the Republicans, the MAGA. They are really complaining, but if you watch their clips before elections, they were dancing, these Mexican songs, Latino songs. They were dancing, Make America Great Again. But now they're the ones crying. And if you look at the farmers, man, you'll really feel for them. Look at also Walmart. This, man, I really feel for Americans, because this particular chain of stores, they used to sell goods at a very affordable rates. But now high tariffs, of course, led them to increase the prices of the products. And of course, they are not able to sell that much. And some of them are really shutting down after so many years of doing business in America. Now they are shutting down, going elsewhere, places where at least rates are affordable, they make sense, and they can be able to pay their employees. That's what is also happening in Kenya. You see, some companies, they're really struggling because of high rates or high tax. And, when you impose high rates on a company, of course, it's not going to be sustainable to them. They love to move to the neighboring countries. And when a company moves to a neighboring country, that means it's a loss to the citizens of that particular country that they were originally in. And yeah, if one person loses a job, I mean, it's like an entire family that is going to suffer, because this one person is being dependent on by family members, and of course immediate family, and also we have the extended, the parents and them. So during the United Nations speech, the president talked, and what he was actually telling us in okay, if you listen to those clips, what he was telling us is that, number one, the inflation in America, it's not there, it's at 0%. And Americans are wondering, like, how now? Inflation zero? No inflation? Inflation is a situation where there is so many cash flows within the country that it loses its meaning, or when the money is too much but the processing power is so low, now it makes the money to be valueless, like what's almost happening in Kenya now. So inflation was like, there is no inflation in America. And the rates, the president told us that the rates in America is really low. Like, it has gone down since he came into office, and most of Americans are not agreeing with him. Prices also, they're going down. But if you see clips on social media, you'll see Americans crying. The fuel is up, the gas is up. They were expecting it to go down, but it's going up and up. Groceries, they're so pricey. Everything. So I don't know what the president meant. I don't know. Anyway, guys, it has been 9 months since the Trump administration took office, and there is a very huge percentage of, huge percentage of tariffs that has come into place or has taken effect. You could talk of between 33 to 400% increase. So with this rate, I can tell you that these third world countries are going to overtake America very soon. Unfortunately, in this whole situation drama saga, the billionaires, they are not going to feel this pricey, high tariff economy. They are not going to feel even an inch. It's the common citizens, the average common citizens of America that are going to feel this. And the average citizens in a country are normally so many compared to the rich or the super rich. The average and the poor ones are those that are always so many, or they're the ones that really support the economy of a country. And in this case, the billionaires in America, they're not going to feel all this high tariff kind of story. So companies are laying off, like dramatically laying off. And it's really affecting people, because this means that Americans are going to get into depression. And life in America is really different from life in Africa, because probably I can, okay, let me just say that in Africa, you know, if actually you got nothing to do, you can go have a chat in the fields, in the market, everywhere you go, you'll just find Africans in a group talking. And in America, it's kind of different because there is no culture of socialism. Like social life it's like something very unique to them. They're not used to it, and that is why when they travel to Africa, more so Kenya, they really love the country because yeah, people are willing to talk to you, tell stories with you. That conversation, it's just superb. So as much as people are being laid off, some are questioning, where do the taxes go? We pay taxes, yes. Where are they going? Because at the same time, we are seeing this ICE agent being paid, and they're telling us that there are no more jobs. So that's a booming depression that is going to come in the next few months. So, my good people, I mean, when it comes to the economy of America, people just feel like it's going to crash. That's the feeling of Americans. And, you can't even, when it comes to, I mean, just being in the real estate itself, it's kind of difficult. Retail sales are also down. And, there, in the first world country, you'll find teenagers mostly depending on themselves, like they're going to work for some hours. And like here, here it's really difficult. It's difficult that if you get to get a job, you really thank God and you really take care of that job so that nothing happens for you. I mean, nothing serious happened that can cause your termination. And in America, it's kind of difficult, different, not really difficult. But unfortunately, this time around, teenagers, they're not having anything to do. Like they are looking for jobs. They're like they're being told around 200 people have already applied for this job, but we don't really have these vacancies. In the past, we could see videos of Americans going around and showing us, like, after every 2 minutes, they need someone to work for this company, they need someone to work for this organization. Like, there were jobs advertisements every 2 minutes, but now there is nothing like that. And when you see the teenagers and the young adults, they're actually opting to go back home and live with their parents. So they no longer, they cannot really depend on themselves and fend for themselves. So next year we're being told that our taxes will be like $1,500, and that's too much. If you calculate it to Kenyan shillings, it's like 200 and probably 30,000 Kenyan shillings for taxes only. Man, hey, Americans. So one thing that I really amazes me about these first world countries is the fact that, if your parent is a politician and you don't agree with them, okay, on political matters, not really family matters, I mean, you see most of these kids coming out and saying, no, I don't support my dad or my mom in this and this. I don't agree on his or her ideology. That can never happen in Africa, like never ever. It's impossible. The probability of it happening is even like zero. Anyway, thank you so much if you watched the video up to this point. I appreciate your presence and I love you to the moon and back.